The dining room was glowing under the chandelier, but the air felt heavy, charged. Olivia Bennet smoothed the edge of her napkin against her lap, her pulse quickening, though she couldn't explain why. Across from her, her husband, Mark, sat, his wineglass down slowly, his eyes locked on her with a look that made her heart skip. "So, Olivia," Mark said, his tone casual but sharp enough to slice through the clinking cutlery. "How's the vacation package I gifted you?" Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The fork slipped from Olivia's hand and clattered against the porcelain plate. Her chest tightened, her throat dry. "What vacation?" she whispered. The silence was instant, suffocating. Mark leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing, then shifted his gaze to the other side of the table, straight at her parents. "Then who used it?" His voice was calm, steady, but everyone at the table could feel the pressure behind it. Her mother, Linda Monroe, shifted uncomfortably, fingers trembling against the stem of her glass. Her father, Gerald, cleared his throat, a hollow sound that betrayed his nerves. Olivia's palms went clammy. A vacation? Booked in her name? She had never been anywhere. She hadn't even left town for months. Mark continued, his words deliberate. 2 weeks, Maui, booked under Olivia's name. I arranged it as a surprise. Flights, resort, everything. But last month, someone checked in. Olivia froze. Maui? Last month, she was stuck in late-night deadlines, skipping lunches, holding her world together with grit. She hadn't taken a single day off. Her mother finally spoke, her voice shaky. "Mark, there must be a mistake, some mix-up at the resort." Mark didn't blink. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his phone, and placed it on the table. The glow of the screen illuminated their guilty faces. "No mistake. The resort sent me their complimentary photo package." Olivia's stomach dropped. Her eyes locked on the screen, and her heart nearly shattered. Her younger sister, Sophie, was in the pictures, standing under palm trees, laughing in a white sundress, holding a cocktail with a little umbrella. In nearly every shot, their parents were right beside her, grinning under the Hawaiian sun. Gerald, with his arm slung proudly over Sophie's shoulder, Linda stretched out on a lounge chair in oversized sunglasses, smiling as though nothing in the world could touch her. Olivia's lips parted, but no words came. Her family, her own flesh and blood. They had stolen her name, her husband's gift, her happiness. Mark's voice was ice. "So again, Olivia, how was the vacation?" Her throat tightened as heat burned behind her eyes. Betrayal, raw, unfiltered, flooded through her veins. Gerald leaned forward, his tone defensive. "Now listen, Olivia, don't make this bigger than it is. Your sister needed a break. She's been overwhelmed, and we decided she deserved it. We didn't think you'd—" "Didn't think I'd what?" Olivia's voice cracked, louder. "Now." She slammed her palm against the table, rattling the silverware. "Didn't think I'd care that you stole from me? That you pretended I didn't exist?" Linda waved her hand, dismissive, her tone dripping with condescension. "Oh, Olivia. Don't dramatize. Families share. You wouldn't have had time to go anyway. Always buried in that little job of yours." Little job. The words stabbed deep. They had always belittled her work, her sacrifices, her choices. And now this. Mark's hand landed gently on hers, steadying her, but his eyes were sharp daggers aimed at her parents. "This isn't sharing," he said firmly. "This is fraud. Identity theft. Do you realize how serious this is? You humiliated Olivia? You disrespected her and you think it's nothing?" Linda's smile faltered. Gerald's jaw clenched. But they said nothing. Olivia's voice trembled with fury, her eyes burning with unshed tears. You've treated me like I don't matter my entire life. Always choosing Sophie. Always making me the afterthought. And now? She pointed at the glowing photos still mocking her from Mark's phone. This is the line you crossed. She pushed her chair back, the screech of wood against marble cutting through the silence. I won't let you use me again. Linda reached for her, panic flashing across her face. Olivia, wait, we can explain. But Olivia pulled her arm back, her voice low, steady, dangerous. You had your chance. Tonight you showed me exactly where I stand. And I'm done. Mark stood too, sliding his phone into his pocket. His voice was calm but final. Come on, Olivia. We don't need to sit through this circus. Her parents sat frozen, Gerald's face red with frustration, Linda's eyes wide with fear. But Olivia didn't look back. Her heels echoed across the floor as she walked out, each step louder than their silence. Behind her, she heard her father mutter something under his breath, her mother's faint sob. But Olivia felt something powerful awaken inside her. This was no longer about a stolen vacation. This was war. The night air outside was cold, but Olivia's skin was burning with fury. She gripped Mark's arm as they reached the car, her breath uneven. He opened the passenger door for her, but before she got in, she leaned against the frame, staring, up at the stars she couldn't see through the city haze. They used my name, she said, her voice raw. They smiled in pictures meant for me. How could they do this, Mark? My own parents. Mark rested his hand against the roof of the car, his jaw tight. Because they think you'll always forgive them. They think you're the safety one to trample on. Tonight proved otherwise. She finally sank into the seat, her chest heaving. The drive back to their home was silent except for the hum of the engine. Olivia's mind replayed the images over and over. Sophie twirling on, the beach. Gerald raising a glass as if celebrating, Linda lounging without a care in the world. Each frame carved a deeper wound. When they got home, Olivia couldn't sit still. She paced the living room, fingers digging into her palms. Mark sat on the couch, watching her carefully. You're not crazy, Olivia, he said firmly. Isn't you overreacting? They stole from you? They lied? And they humiliated you. If you don't stand up now, they'll keep doing it. Olivia stopped pacing, her hair falling across her face. I've spent my whole life trying to earn their approval, Mark. Straight A's, long work hours, everything they said would make them proud. And still, they see me as less than Sophie. Mark's voice softened. Then maybe it's time they see you for who you really are. Not the daughter they can dismiss, not the sister they can steal from, but someone they should have never underestimated. His words sparked something inside her, a small flame, but it grew fast. The next morning, Olivia sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, determination replacing the haze of last night's pain. She began pulling up bank statements, property records, even old loan documents her father once carelessly left on her desk when she was in college. She remembered the way Gerald bragged about handling money better than anyone. But Olivia knew his weakness. His pride always made him careless. Mark walked in, coffee in hand. You're already up, he noted. Olivia didn't look up from the screen. They think I'm weak. They think I won't fight back. But I know them better than they think, and I'm done staying quiet. What are you planning? He asked, though there was no judgment in his voice, only curiosity. She finally looked at him, her eyes sharp. I'm going to take away the one thing they value more than Sophie. Their reputation. And I won't even have to lie to do it. That evening, Olivia showed up at her parents' house unannounced. Linda opened the door, startled, her pearls still dangling from last night. Olivia, you shouldn't have left like that. We can talk this through. Olivia walked past her without asking, her heels echoing on the hardwood. Gerald was in the living room, reading the paper, his glasses sliding down his nose. He looked up, scowling. "You've got nerve barging in after that scene you caused." She tossed a folder onto the coffee table. The papers inside spilled out. Copies of financial records, emails Gerald had written to business partners, small but damning notes showing how often he borrowed money from Olivia's college fund. To cover his risks. Linda gasped. "Where did you get these?" Olivia's voice was steady. "I've always kept receipts, Mom. Every time you brushed me off, every time you thought I was too naive to notice, I kept the truth." Gerald's face went pale. "You wouldn't dare," Olivia cut him off, her voice sharp enough to sting. "You dared first when you stole what was mine. Now you get to understand how it feels." Sophie walked into the room, her hair in a towel, still smelling of expensive shampoo. She froze when she saw Olivia standing tall, the folder open. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone guilty before anyone said a word. Olivia turned her gaze to her sister. "You looked happy in Maui. Hope the cocktails were worth it. Because from now on, Sophie, I'm done protecting you." Sophie's face flushed, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't form a defense. Olivia leaned down, staring straight at her parents. "You've made me invisible for too long. But let me be clear. If you ever use me again, if you ever try to erase me to prop Sophie, these papers won't stay in this folder. They'll be in every inbox that matters to you." Gerald's hands shook as he crumpled the newspaper. Linda's eyes darted nervously, but neither spoke. For the first time in years, Olivia felt taller, stronger, unshakable. She turned toward the door, pausing only once to glance back at their stunned faces. "This isn't me asking for respect anymore. This is me taking it." And with that, she walked out, the sound of the door slamming behind her echoing through the house like a verdict. Olivia sat in her car outside her parents' house, her chest heaving, the steering wheel cool beneath her grip. For the first time in her life, she had watched Gerald Monroe's face crumble. She had watched Linda's pearls tremble against her neck. And Sophie, sweet, spoiled Sophie, had finally been silenced. But anger didn't disappear. It sharpened. That night, Mark found her sitting at the kitchen table again, her laptop open, her eyes burning with sleepless determination. "You're still digging?" he asked softly. Olivia nodded. They built their whole image on lies. They think they can take whatever they want, and no one will hold them accountable. But I'm not going to let them brush this off like some harmless mistake. I'm going to make them feel what I felt. Mark leaned on the counter, his gaze steady. "You don't need to burn everything down to prove a point." Olivia looked up at him, her voice cutting but controlled. "This isn't about a point, Mark. This is about showing them I'm not disposable. They don't get to erase me anymore." Mark didn't argue. He only walked over, set his hand gently on her shoulder, and said, "Then do it right. Don't give them a way to play victim. Make sure the truth speaks louder than they ever could." That was exactly what she intended. The next day, Olivia printed out a thick packet, proof of every borrowed dollar, every business deal Gerald had hidden, every bank transfer with Sophie's name in the notes. She drove across town, not to her parents' house, but to the office of a man who had always wanted to outshine Gerald, his longtime business rival, Thomas Avery. The receptionist eyed her curiously when she slid the packet across the desk. "Tell Mr. Avery it's about Gerald Monroe. He'll want to see this." 2 hours later, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Impressive work. You've handed me exactly what I needed. Expect things to get messy. Olivia." Exhaled, her hands trembling as she locked the screen. She didn't feel guilty. They had stolen her identity, her happiness. Now, they would watch their own identities unravel. By the weekend, rumors were already spreading. Gerald's name had surfaced in whispers around his company. Associates were questioning missing funds. Sophie's name was floating in hushed conversations about favoritism and money laundering. Olivia didn't have to do much. Just wait. Sunday afternoon, Linda called her. Olivia let it ring twice before she answered, her tone flat. What do you want, Mom? Linda's voice cracked, nothing like the confident tone she used at dinner. Olivia, we need to talk. Things are getting out of hand. Your father's reputation. People are asking questions. Olivia didn't flinch. That's not my problem. Don't say that, Linda pleaded. You don't understand what this could do to our family. Olivia laughed bitterly. Family? When have you ever treated me like family? You only cared about Sophie. You only cared about yourselves. Olivia, please, Linda begged. You're our daughter. We never meant… You meant it, Olivia snapped. You meant it when you stole what was mine. You meant it when you let Sophie pose in my name. You meant it when you dismissed me as nothing. So now you get to live with the consequences. She hung up before Linda could reply. That evening, Sophie showed up at Olivia's door. Her hair was disheveled, her face blotchy from crying. Mark opened the door, frowning, but Olivia stepped forward. What do you want? Olivia asked coldly. Sophie's eyes were swollen. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't think it would blow up like this. I wanted a break. I didn't know Dad used your name. I didn't know Mark would find out. Olivia crossed her arms. You didn't know, or you didn't care? Sophie's lips trembled. You've always been the strong one. I thought you'd forgive me. But now Dad's career is on the line. Mom's falling apart. Olivia, please stop this. Don't destroy them. Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steel. They destroyed me first. Every time they told me I wasn't enough. Every time they erased me to make you the golden child. This isn't just about a vacation, Sophie. This is about a lifetime of being invisible. Sophie shook her head desperately. But you're not invisible. You've got Mark. You've got a life. Isn't that enough? Olivia stepped closer, her voice low and cutting. No, Sophie. Enough is when I can look in the mirror and know I stood up for myself. Enough is when I finally stopped letting all of you steal from me. Sophie's tears spilled, but Olivia didn't move to comfort her. For once, she wasn't the sister patching wounds. She was the one drawing lines. When Sophie left, Mark rapped, his arms around Olivia from behind, his voice steady against her ear. You did what you had to do. Olivia closed her eyes, exhaling a shuddering breath. I know. But it's not over yet. They've only just begun to understand what it feels like to lose control. Her words hung in the air like a promise, and Olivia Bennett wasn't done keeping promises. By Monday morning, the Monroe's polished image was crumbling like glass under a hammer. Gerald's business associates were calling emergency meetings. Rumors of mismanaged funds and shady transfers spread fast in a town that thrived on reputation. For once, Gerald couldn't laugh them off. Olivia sat at her office desk, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages from unknown numbers, reporters sniffing around, people asking for comments. She ignored them all. She didn't need to explain. The truth had already started speaking for itself. That evening, Mark walked into the kitchen where Olivia sat with her laptop. He studied her, admiration mixed with concern. Word is Gerald's stepping down as head of his firm, he said quietly. Olivia's chest rose and fell. She didn't smile, but she didn't flinch either. He built that empire on lies. It was only a matter of time before it collapsed. Mark leaned on the counter. Are you satisfied? Her throat tightened. Not yet. They still haven't said the one thing I've been waiting to hear my whole life. What's that? That I matter. The following night, Olivia was invited, no, demanded, by Linda to come back to the family house. Against Mark's better judgment, Olivia agreed. She needed closure. She needed to see them face her without excuses. When she arrived, the house looked smaller somehow, its grand walls dimmed by tension. Linda opened the door, her pearls absent, her eyes hollow. Gerald sat in the living room, his shoulders slumped, no newspaper in sight. Sophie hovered near the fireplace, wringing her hands. "Olivia," Linda began, her voice trembling. "We need to talk." Olivia stepped inside, her heels clicking against the marble. "I'm listening." Gerald stood, his face pale. I made mistakes, but you don't understand the pressure I was under." Olivia's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Pressure? You think stress justifies stealing from me? Humiliating me? Making me invisible?" He tried again, his voice breaking. "I thought I was protecting the family." "Protecting Sophie," Olivia cut in. Her eyes blazed as she looked at her sister. "You've spent your whole life making sure she never had to face consequences, and you left me to carry the weight of being your disappointment." Sophie's lips trembled. "Olivia, please." But Olivia wasn't finished. She turned back to Gerald and Linda, her voice firm, each word a stone thrown through their fragile facade. "You always said, family comes first. But you never meant me. You used me when it was convenient. You ignored me when I needed you. And now you're paying for it." Linda finally broke, her hands shaking. "We were wrong," she whispered. "Olivia, we were wrong about everything. You mattered more than we ever admitted. You've always mattered." For a moment, silence stretched. Olivia felt her heart pound against her ribs, a mix of pain and vindication. She had waited decades to hear those words, but she wasn't here for shallow apologies. "You're only saying that because your world is falling apart," Olivia said, her voice steady but laced with years of hurt. Where were those words? When I was a child, desperate for approval? Where were they when Sophie took everything and you told me to smile through it? Tears filled Linda's eyes. Gerald sat back down, defeated, his pride stripped bare. Sophie sobbed quietly into her hands. Olivia straightened, her shoulders squared. "I'm not here to fix this for you. I'm not here to play the loyal daughter or the forgiving sister. I came to tell you that from this day forward, I'm done. You don't get to use me again. You don't get to define me again." Linda reached out desperately. "Olivia, please. We can make this right." Olivia shook her head. "No, you don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to erase what you did. I'm walking away, not as your scapegoat, not as your second choice, but as the woman you underestimated. And you'll have to live with that." She turned and walked toward the door, her heels sharp against the floor, her heart pounding with finality. Sophie's voice cracked behind her. "Olivia, don't go." But Olivia didn't stop. She opened the door, the cool night air washing over her, a symbol of freedom she had never felt before. Mark was waiting by the car, his eyes searching hers. "Well?" he asked. Olivia's lips curved into the faintest, proudest smile. "They finally admitted I mattered. But it's too late. I don't need their approval anymore." Mark pulled her close, his arms steady around her. "You never did." As they drove away, the Monroe house faded into the darkness behind them. Olivia leaned against the window, tears finally spilling. But this time, they weren't from pain. They were from release. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. She wasn't desperate for scraps of love. She had carved her worth with her own hands. And as the city lights stretched before her, Olivia knew this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a life where she chose herself.